Good morning. This is English 8 for Wednesday, March 19th. First, we're going to do a little review. We've talked a little bit about analyzing a sentence. So the very first thing you need to do when you analyze a sentence is to find the prepositional phrases. Good. Once you find your prepositional phrases, then we locate our verb. Now, we find our prepositional phrases first because we know that our subject and verb are never in a prepositional phrase. So we find our prepositional phrases. Looking at the remaining words, we find our verb, which is the action or the state of being. Once we find the action or state of being, we say who or what did this, and that is our subject. Remember, the subject is either going to be a noun or a pronoun, but its job is to be the subject. Once we've located our subject and our verb, we look for a complement. Before we can find the complement, we must ask ourselves, what kind of verb do we have? Do we have an action verb or do we have a linking verb? If we have an action verb, we look for our direct object or our indirect object. Remember the pattern of your sentence. It must be subject, verb, indirect object, direct object. So you're going to find the verb, find the subject, find the direct object. If there's an indirect object, it will always be between the verb and the direct object. Now, if you have a linking verb, okay, then you're not going to have a direct object or an indirect object. Instead, you'll have a predicate nominative or a predicate adjective as your complement. If you have a predicate nominative, we find our prepositional phrases, find our verb, find the subject, and then say what word after the verb, after our linking verb, equals the subject. So if I say Natalie is an 8th grade student, Natalie is my subject, is my linking verb. So Natalie equals what? Natalie equals a student. So student is our predicate nominative. Now, if there's not a predicate nominative, there could be a predicate adjective or subject complement. That predicate adjective is going to be an adjective or a word after my linking verb that goes back and it describes my subject. So if I say the sentence that Angel is tall, Angel doesn't equal tall. So it's not a predicate nominative, but I have a linking verb. So tall is the word that describes Angel. It goes back and describes my subject. So tall is a predicate adjective. Now I know all of that is reviewed for you. Once we've launched all those subjects, verbs, and complements were found, we talked about our adjectives. And if you remember, adjectives tell us which one, what kind, how much, how many, or whose. These questions are always going to be the questions that an adjective answers. It must answer one of these. And it must answer it about a noun or a pronoun. If I'm talking about a jacket, whose jacket? Well, maybe it's Elena's jacket. How many Easter eggs were there? What kind of eggs were they? They were Easter eggs, okay? So an adjective must answer one of these 5 questions, and it must be talking about a noun or a pronoun. Now, we've done that unit, and right before spring break, we started on adverbs. Adverbs tell me they describe or modify a verb, an adverb, or an adjective. They have to answer one of these 5 questions. Make sure you memorize these. The questions are where, when, how often, or to what extent. Every adverb is going to answer one of those questions. Where did he kick the ball? When? Yesterday he kicked the ball. How did he kick the ball? Hard. He kicked the ball hard. Okay? How often? Or to what extent? We're going to get into all the questions in a moment. Now, I want you to be very careful that you learn all these patterns for adverbs. Now remember, we learned the placements of adjectives in a sentence, but we're going to talk about the placement of an adverb in a sentence as well. Adverbs can come before the word they modify. They may come after the word they modify, or they may come in the middle. What I'm talking about when they modify a verb, okay? If they modify a verb, they may come before the verb, they may come after the verb, or they may come in the middle of our verb phrase, okay? If you look at your blue box on page 194, page 194, and if you look at her in the third blue box down, it says, Karen often swims in the summer. When does Karen swim? Often. Often, or how often does she swim? The banker dictated slowly to his secretary. How did he dictate? Slowly. Notice here the adverb is after the verb. God can always be trusted. When can we trust God? Always. Notice on that sentence, there's an arrow pointing to the word can and to be trusted, because the word, our adverb is in the middle of our verb phrase. Yesterday, grandfather arrived for a visit. When did grandfather arrive? Yesterday. So yesterday is our adverb telling us about his arrival. Now, adverbs that modify an adjective, okay, they are always going to tell us how or to what extent. If an adverb modifies an adjective, it's going to tell us how or to what extent. And it's usually going to be located immediately before the word it modifies. The same is true if you have an adverb modifying another adverb. Adverbs that modify an adverb come immediately before the word it describes, and it's going to tell us how. Okay? In other words, if you look at blue box number 5, Max did very well on his college examination. Well, how well did he do? He did very well. Very tells me how well. So that is an adverb describing another adverb. Now, infinitives, as we know, are going to also be used as adverbs. Look at blue box number 6. Are you ready to go? To go is an infinitive, and it's telling us about ready. So to go is an infinitive describing ready. Look at the next sentence. Example in box number 6. After working all day, I was too tired to eat dinner. To eat is an infinitive. Remember, it looks like a verb, but it's not, and it begins with the word to. To eat is going to describe the word to, T-O-O. Look at the last example. To do exceptionally well, you must have resolve and determination. To do is describing what you must have. Okay? So every time you look at these for adverbs, remember, if it's describing the verb, it may be before it, it could be after it, or it could be in the middle. If it's an adverb describing an adjective, it's going to be right before it. If it's an adverb describing another adverb, it also will come right before. Your assignment is going to be to do this worksheet. It's labeled for you at the top, and I want you to fill out the front of the worksheet and do the sentences on the back. Once you have done this worksheet, then take your quiz. Please make sure you do the worksheet first. It will help you make a better grade on the quiz. Number 1, and number 2, both the worksheet and the quiz will count as grades. So please make sure you don't lose it. Once you've completed your worksheet, please put it away. Put it in a folder. Put it back where you're keeping all of your papers so that you do not lose them. Have a good day.